Hey, what's going on, guys? This is going to be my out-of-box review for the Master Grade Banshee Ver.Ka. And so, as I mentioned in the unboxing video, I do want to do a specific video kind of dedicated to comparing the Master Grade and the real grade, but that is not going to be in this video. So I'm, as best as I can, I'm going to avoid spending too much time of this video kind of comparing it to the real grade, as I want to just keep that to a separate video. But I do just want to talk about this model in particular and what are the good and bad points, just kind of a normal review of this kit. Now, it's kind of hard to do just a normal review of this kit, seeing as how this is actually, for the most part, a kit that came out almost a decade ago now with the original Master Grade Unicorn Ver.Ka. There have been a couple small updates to it, obviously including the new parts to make it into the Banshee. But as we saw again in the unboxing, those new parts to make it into the Banshee are also not new at all. This is just sort of like a new packaging of nothing really new at all. But that doesn't make it not a good kit at all. So we can't always just focus on the new, but sometimes we can take some time to just focus on some really cool kits as well. And I think there's a lot to love about this kit. Now, it's very understandable that there may be plenty of people out there who are a little bit bored of just the Unicorn in general, or possibly bored of this Master Grade, seeing as how we've had the original Ver.Ka, the OVA version, the Full Armor Unicorn Ver.Ka, the Banshee, the P-Bandai Banshee Norn, then this Banshee, and then kind of everything else in between, the Phoenix and all of that. So it's certainly not anything new, but again, the Master Grade Unicorn, it's really hard to tell. I want to say that the Master Grade Unicorn is still my favorite version of the Unicorn because I just love the way that it looks so much. I think it's just a really, really good Katoki design. Where other versions of the Unicorn I just don't really quite like as much, but there's pros and cons, I think, to every version. I don't know, so it's really hard to tell what exactly is my favorite version. But obviously, most people are going to argue, rightly so, that the real grade is the best version of the kit now. And I definitely think you can make that argument, but that's not to say that this kit isn't worth buying. And I hopefully you guys will see throughout this review, I'll be able to convince you that there's still plenty of worth in picking up this kit as well. So even if you're like me and you already have a few Master Grade Unicorns in your collection, you can always add one more, I think. And this one does give you a good reason to do that. So just as always, before we get into it, just want to say a huge thank you to USA Gundam Store for providing this kit to me to share with you guys, even though, again, it's not anything new. I kind of let Adam know that what I wanted to do with this review, just kind of make the case for this kit, because I don't want the Master Grade to be forgotten amongst the midst of the Mega Size coming out and the Real Grade coming out, and we also have the Perfect Grade, which came out just a few years ago. But in my opinion, the Master Grade is still a fantastic kit with its flaws, but let's get into it. Alright, so first let's recap everything that you're going to get in the kit. First thing, of course, you have a handful of extra parts left over, including all the parts to make a regular Unicorn Gundam head. If you're so inclined to have just a black unicorn, you can build that. As for the stickers, here we have some options. We had options here for the eyes, whether you wanted to make the eyes in red or yellow. I went with red, as well as the cameras being in red. You can also choose yellow for the cameras as well. We have this large, beautiful sheet of waterslide decals in a typical Ver.Ka fashion here. Just a lot of tiny little markings on there. As you can see, it's going to take you quite a while to put all these on. Some white ones there, but most of them are in gold, and it's like kind of a matte gold. It's not super shiny. So whether that's what you like or not, I think there's kind of pros and cons to like the really shiny ones or to these. I think these will look good though. As you can see, some really nice markings and everything on there. And you do have some options for the markings as well. So I think a pretty win-win situation here with the markings. Of course, we have our action-based connector here. And then we have our 1/100 scale pilot figure here, which was originally for Banshee Lynx, used with the original Unicorn Gundam, but if you repaint it properly, it's supposed to be Riddy. Now, one thing that many people pointed out in the comment section for the unboxing of this kit, and one thing that I just kind of failed to really mention in the unboxing video, is that the reason that this doesn't have any of the armed armor on it, and it doesn't have the gold around the collar, is that this is the light novel version of the Banshee. Basically, the very first kind of Banshee that we got was basically just this. It's just the unicorn with a different head and all the same armaments. But we do have, as we saw in the unboxing, the inclusion of the gold parts for the color part. So you have a different color, different parts here for like the around the color. The dark navy blue part is also different to fit in the new piece, and then the cockpit hatch part for the front of the chest is also a separate part. So you just swap these parts, easy enough. If you want to have the gold around the color, you can most definitely make that. But just for the sake of keeping this kit as it appears on the box, I didn't use those gold parts at this time. But speaking on the gold, it's a very white gold. It's not very yellowy at all. So that may be to your personal taste or not. Personally, I think therefore that faceplate, it's very light, and that might be different for other people's. I mean, depending on how your parts got sprayed, but it's a very, very light, almost silver look to that gold. It depends on like how you catch it in the light. As for the V-fin though, we do have three options. You have that one, which is just the solid unicorn mode V-fin. Then we also have a solid destroy mode V-fin, which is just like this, so you can swap that out. And then we have the transforming V-fin, which is two parts and a little hinge there in the center. So you can see when that's together, they fit together close enough, but still just, I think using the fixed pose V-fins is going to be your best option. But when you open this up, there we go, it's going to look pretty much exactly the same as the fixed pose open one. So it's just kind of nice that you at least have the option, I suppose. Then for our weapons and accessories, we have our two clear pink beam saber effect parts for this. We have 4 beam sabers, 1 in each side of the arm for the tonfas, and then of course 2 on the backpack as well. We have our shield, again just same shield, very nice, simple. I like to look at the shield, extend it out, open it up. There we go. In destroy mode, going to be looking even more impressive, of course, with that nice bright orange psycho frame. We have our hyper bazooka here molded all in gray. We have a little green sticker in there for the camera. A few moving parts on this. The side handle will open out like that. This main handle though doesn't move up and down, but it's already set at an angle that it's pretty easy to hold that. It doesn't really cause too much of an issue to hold this up over the shoulder. The shoulder armor for this kit also relatively small, so you don't have any issues with that. The barrel does extend, so this is just kind of like not in use and in use. But the big problem with the bazooka, and I've just always found this to be a problem, if one of you guys knows, maybe I'm doing this wrong, but I've built this kit multiple times and I've always experienced this problem, but the ammo for the bazooka falls out very easily from there. You just have this kind of sliding bit here at the back, which is cool that it like slides open to hold the ammo in there. And this cartridge is kind of cool, like you can see the little kind of the ends of the ammunition in there. But they just didn't really make it in a way that it really latches into there well enough, so it's kind of loose. So it stays in there well enough, but like once you're posing the kit and like trying to get it into a pose, if you touch it at all, it's just gonna become loose and just fall out super easily. So I would definitely recommend probably just gluing that in place will be your best bet. If you really want, maybe just put a little magnet in there, it would be another option, or just make your own little peg or something. There's many ways to fix that. It's really not that big of a deal, but it is just a kind of like, what the fuck? Now this bazooka ammo can actually be attached onto the back skirt here, so you can just attach that onto there. That's kind of nice, you can do like that. And then on the top of the bazooka, this little switch will flip out there, this little peg, and you can plug that straight here into the center of the backpack for storage on the backpack like so. I think that's a pretty cool thing. And then of course we have our beam magnum. Now very similar to the bazooka, I think it's all very nice, works very good, but it does have one slight flaw. So this one as well just has a little green sticker in there for the camera. Overall quite nice. The secondary handle folds out and actually slides forward a little bit there on the track. On the other side, we have this little attachment piece here, which you could just omit that if you don't want it on there, but this little peg on here will allow you to attach this onto the back of the arm, which is pretty cool. I actually kind of like that. It's pretty unique to have like a rifle or like a handgun or something like this attaching onto the back of the arm rather than the back of the skirt. This one also does have the same little peg on here, if I can pull this out. And this works the same way that you can just plug this onto the center of the backpack there for storage if you want to just carry it around like that. Especially when you're dealing with pretty long weapons, I don't really like attaching them onto the back skirt because they're sticking like way off to the side and it just looks kind of goofy. Unless it's like collapsible like the Gym Sniper Custom rifle, that's what I want to say. But the main problem that I've always had with this beam magnum is that it's always very loose here and comes apart and the ammunition can fall out. So when you're trying to move it around, this one is pretty tight it seems, but again, it's a very easy thing to fix, a little bit of glue or whatever anyway to just tighten that joint so it's a little bit more secure. But I've always found that a little bit annoying. And then we do have some extra ammunition for this. We actually have 2 extra sets of ammunition and like a little extra one on there. It's actually supposed to be 5 shots on here. This one has 6. As you can see, I didn't bother trimming the nubs on these because I'm not really going to use them for anything. But these as well, extra ammunition clips can also be attached onto the back skirt here. Like so if you want, you could have one on both or have bazooka ammo on one side and then the other one on the other. So as you can see, you do get some cool accessories and things. It's not really going to be, again, anything too unique or different, but it's all quite good, I think. So let's talk a little bit about the articulation. Now, one thing that is often a kind of common complaint about the Master Grade is that it's a bit more fragile. Stuff like tends to fall apart or break kind of easily on it. Not much break, but just fall apart. Pieces can fall off easily while you're messing around with the kit. Now, I think the important thing to remember is that this is a model kit and not a toy, so it's not really meant to be kind of overly manipulated. So, I mean, it's a fair criticism on one hand, but on the other hand, kind of not. So let's get into it. The head will go up to there. It's kind of hard to see, but there is a little bit of red inside there, which does look quite nice. If you catch it at the right angle, you can see that. And the head will go down to there, so quite nice. In the stomach section, there's not really any stomach crunch or like side to side or anything. That's just due to the transformation gimmick. In the stomach section, there's not really any stomach crunch or side to side bend or anything like that. Basically just rotation, and that's all there is there, just because of the transformation, the extension of the stomach section in there. The shoulder joint will pull out to the front just a little bit, not very much. Upward mobility of the shoulder joint will only be able to go up to about 90 degrees. So again, not very much. Then the arm is pretty standard, just rotation at the top. A double joint that you have to do kind of in a certain way to get around these parts. But then once you get that, it's not like a full bend, but it's pretty much there. The wrist is just on a ball joint, and then there is a little hinge there at the wrist as well, but there's not really a whole lot of room for that to move anywhere. The thumb is just one piece on a ball joint, and then the fingers are each on their own individual ball joint, but the first finger is separate. The second, third, and fourth finger are joined together, but all you would really have to do is just cut those apart, and then you could have each individual finger being separated if you want. The front skirt's obviously going to move independently, and you can only bring them up to about to here. Not really a whole lot. The side skirts, not going to be any problem there. Those get up plenty out of the way. The back skirts as well, similar to the front skirts, will only go up to about there. The legs can go all the way out to the side, no problems with that. But the problem with the legs on this kit is that they're pretty heavy, and it depends on the pose. It might not hold the weight of the leg up, so you might notice the leg kind of drooping down. This does seem pretty strong. I mean, it's standing up pretty well, but I have experienced that with other kits from the Master Grade Unicorn, is that the legs are quite heavy, and the hip joint, just straight out of the box without doing anything to tighten that joint, can be a little bit loose. And then, of course, rotation at the top of the leg. Double joint in the knee is really only going to give you about 90 degrees. Now, that's something that's actually fixed with this version. The original Master Grade Ver.Ka Unicorn actually had less than that. It was actually only about to there, and that's one thing that they adjusted with this kit. They changed these parts parts on the side of the leg, and also this part here on the back of the leg, trimmed those down a little bit here in the back so that you could be able to get a little bit more of a bend there at the knee. But again, it's just due to the shape of these armor parts that's all that you can get. Of course, they did fix that for the perfect grade and then for the real grade as well, and they made it a way so that this knee joint kind of separated farther out from the leg, so you could get actually more of a bend there. But as it is, with the extent that you can bend the knee and with the extent that you can raise the front skirt armor, this is about as high as you can get the knee. Down here in the ankles, it's a pretty cool, interesting ankle joint, and if you've built the perfect grade or the real grade, I think they all still go together relatively similarly to the original Master Grade. But just due to the design of this, with these parts kind of hanging down low over the side, your side-to-side motion here at the ankle is a little bit hindered. Forward and back motion, though, is pretty good, and you can see we're just kind of moving stuff around all over the place. The foot is separated, and you are able to point the toes up, but you aren't able to point the toes down. But that said, you can point the whole foot down pretty far like that, so it does work out pretty well, I think. Up underneath the feet, there's some nice detail there, of course, but it's a Master Grade, so you'd expect that. Just briefly going back around to the backpack, you'll just notice the foil sticker for the camera in the back of the head, and nothing really moves on the backpack except for what's meant to move for the transformation, so that's all just part of the transformation to destroy mode. Now, one comparison that I will make in this review, not to the real grade, but just to the high grade here, this is the high grade Banshee Norn in Unicorn mode, and you will see just what I want you guys to focus on here, just between the high grade and the Master Grade, is just the difference in proportions. It's going to be a little bit hard to see, but I think you'll definitely be able to see it in the legs. One thing the Master Grade is known for is just having the most longest, gigantic legs on a kit. Just you can see the difference, just like comparing these side by side, how much longer in terms of like the overall body height the legs are on the Master Grade compared to its high grade 1/144 scale equivalent here. Now, at this point, I know what you might be thinking, like, well, the articulation really doesn't look that great. He's talking about parts being kind of loose and too heavy to hold up the weight and things like that. And I will be honest, like, posing this kit is a little bit tricky. It's kind of hard when you have stuff like I mentioned, the legs are kind of weighty. The bazooka ammo keeps falling out. The tag and the hand, which allows you to connect to the hand onto the weapons, comes off kind of easily. So rightfully, you may be starting to wonder, okay, like, when is this review going to start getting positive? Because overall, the kit really doesn't look that great. And my point is of why I think this is such a great kit of the Unicorn Gundam or Banshee or whatever version you get is simply because of the looks. I think this kit just looks really good. It's not the easiest kit to pose. It's not the most stable or sturdy kit by any means, but again, this is, I think this is kind of all the different versions of the Unicorn kit, this is the one that is the most on the end of the model kit spectrum. I think a lot of Bandai's model kits can be kind of over the range between kind of what we think of like a traditional model kit and more towards a toy, and most of them fall pretty much in the center. This one definitely leans more towards being a model kit, which means it's something that you're not really going to want to be able to play with or anything. Like, you're not going to want to change up the pose a lot or anything like that, but this is going to be something that you're going to want to just put some work into to just really make it look its best. Put it in one pose, probably just standing, not in anything too dynamic or extreme unless you want to get more interesting with it. And then just put it down there and leave it like that and just have a really nice looking, good looking 1/100 scale Unicorn Gundam or Banshee or whatever. And then again, plus the fact that we have the waterslide decals included with this kit, those are going to be something that you can use those just directly on the bare plastic if you want. But I think those are definitely going to be much better if you are going to take the time and paint up the kit and do all of that stuff.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Okay, so now that it is transformed into destroy mode, I just want to give you guys a little size comparison to a sort of average height 1/100 scale master grade Gundam, and as you can see, it is quite a bit taller with the extensions of the legs and giving long legs even longer legs. But that said, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, transforming this kit is not fun. Just as I said, it can be a little bit testy, and when you're moving stuff around, you'll move one part into place, but you know, you have to kind of hold on to the kit while you're doing that. So as you move one part into place, you accidentally move the other part back into its original position, and you move one part and the other part gets messed up, and you move one part and the other part gets messed up. So transforming the kit does take a while to get everything just right. Again, I know it sounds like I'm making a lot of excuses for the kit, but I think it's just pretty amazing that they were able to do this with what they were doing at the time. I mean, how this is a fully transformational kit like that, and just like the transformation gimmicks that they built into this at the time, I think were all pretty impressive. Now, of course, they've perfected that with doing the PG, where they have a lot more space in the kind of overall build, and then they were able to shrink that down into the RG as well and simplify that even more and make the transformation very simple for the most part. But you have to remember, this is their first attempt at it, and with it, you know, it definitely could have been better, and we saw that it did get better, but it does still work to give you a good end result after a little bit of sweat. And so one of the weak point that is a little bit annoying that I should point out to you guys is also the wrist. It's kind of hard to hold the beam magnum straight. The wrist keeps wanting to just sag down a little bit. It's a really tiny bit of like movement loss you get there in the wrist, but it really makes a difference if you want to do any kind of posing like this, or just like posing with the beam rifle, the beam magnum in hand. If that's just going to sag down a little bit, it's just kind of going to ruin the pose a little bit. But again, that's something very easily fixed, but it's just kind of just straight out of the box, snapped up like this. It is going to be something that is going to be a little bit of a headache when trying to pose the kit. And so I think basically kind of the main theme of what I want to say about this kit, if this was like a too long didn't read kind of way to summarize this entire review of this kit, is that I think this is a fantastic kit for probably a little bit more experienced modelers. I would not really recommend this kit for beginners, or if this was like maybe your first master grade or something like that. You could very easily build it and enjoy it, no problems there. But what I think might be the case is that you might just end up feeling like you didn't really get a very good master grade for your first kit. And while, again, I think it does look very good, there's problems in there that if you're not going to go in and do a little bit more work to try to fix those, or if you're like, depending on what you're expecting out of the kit, you could very easily come out of this build feeling a little bit disappointed. But that said, again, my overall feeling is that it's a really fantastic looking kit. Tighten up some of those joints, give the kit a paint job, throw on all those beautiful waterslide decals, and you're going to have a really amazing looking kit. It's not going to be able to do maybe everything as dynamically as you might be able to do with other versions of the kits, namely the real grade. But again, it just kind of depends on what you're expecting out of it. I think if you really like the proportions and the size of the 1/100 scale, this is definitely still a very, very nice kit. Perfect? No, but hey, what kit is, right? So that is going to be pretty much it for this review, guys. Like I said, I will do another video. It will be pretty short. I mean, for the most part, I've covered kind of all the pros and cons here. But I do just want to do a separate video kind of simply focusing on comparing a few things directly between this, the master grade and the real grade. So that'll be coming out later on, not directly after this, but maybe a little bit later. Once again, thank you to USA Gundam Store for sponsoring this video, guys. Do check the link to their store down below. You can pick up this kit or whatever else you want. Use that coupon code ZakuAurelius10. Save yourself 10%. This kit, once again, retails for 5,000 yen. So, you know, it's a little bit more expensive for a master grade, but as you've seen, it is pretty large, and all of the cycle frame and everything in there, the transformation, the gold-plated parts, all of that are also all that kind of stuff is going to add to the price. So I think 5,000 yen, definitely fair for this kit. It's reasonable. But that said, if you can buy it off USA Gundam Store and save an extra 10% on it, then why not, right? So if you guys do have any other further questions or comments specifically about this kit, feel free to leave those down below, and I'll try to answer those for you guys. Otherwise, thank you, as always, so much for watching. Hope you're having a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hey! Thanks for watching, guys. Remember, if you want to check the kit out for yourself, you can head over to USA Gundam Store. Use that coupon code ZakuAurelius10. Save yourself 10%. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.